Hello and welcome to the Spark Change podcast. I'm Denise Miller. I'm the advocacy coordinator for Firesteel, which is a network of Washington YWCAs committed to ending homelessness through innovative advocacy.
And I'm Erin Murphy, the Director of Community Engagement for the YWCA Seattle King Snohomish.
And today we're very excited to show off a project that we've been working on in collaboration with StoryCorps, the Gates Foundation, Seattle University, and a lot of other community partners.
Yeah, before we get into the details of the project, a little background. In case you're not familiar with StoryCorps, a lot of people are, but a lot of people aren't. It's essentially an oral history project. It's based out of New York, but they capture snapshots of what life in America is like across all America and travel. They are most well known for their 2-minute stories that are often aired on NPR Morning Edition. And the format that they use is generally having a facilitator, a trained facilitator, in conversation with two individuals. That one person is often the sort of primary storyteller, and then somebody else that they know is asking them questions and engaging them in conversation. So we were really excited to see this process firsthand when they came out to the Puget Sound region last summer.
That's right. The Gates Foundation realized that StoryCorps stories could be a really great way to gather and share stories about family homelessness. And so last summer, we started recruiting families to participate. And we actually, it was a massive outreach project that involved a lot of service providers from all over 3 counties, King, Snohomish, and Pierce in the Puget Sound region. And we also did a lot of kind of on-the-ground recruiting, like there were posters in libraries, and we did a lot of social media outreach, just encouraging people to come forward and share their stories if they're ready. So we ended up collecting around 90 stories.
Yeah.
And it was absolutely wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
We collected stories in each county for 1 week. So the StoryCorps facilitators would come from New York. They'd be here like Monday through Friday or Tuesday through Saturday. And we would have pairs of people come in and have a 40-minute conversation uninterrupted, just really talking about big things, big, deep things in their lives. Most of them were families, people who had actually experienced homelessness in the past. Some of them were service providers and other people who work in nonprofits and advocacy organizations.
Yeah, because there were a number of project managers too, so primarily us representing the YWC and Firesteel, but also Seattle U. And StoryCorps, we used Google Drive for cross-team collaboration, so whether it was a spreadsheet or documents, we were able to share it collaboratively using Google Drive, so that was great. We also were really excited to have a story air so quickly after the first sort of series of recordings. So we were never guaranteed that this would air, any of these stories would air nationally. We hoped that they would, but there was no guarantee. And so it was extremely exciting to have just, what was it, like maybe 2 or 3 weeks after we did the majority of the recording, that StoryCorps shared with us that one of the stories was actually picked up and happened to be aired on national radio on NPR. So that was awesome. There's been a couple more since then, but it was a great way to come out of the gate.
Absolutely, and it was super powerful story about a girl, a high school student living with her family in a car, and just how do you do homework when that's where you live and that's where you're supposed to do homework.
Yeah.
At home.
Yeah, so StoryCorps, their staff committed to professionally editing about 9 stories out of the 90, which is great. And those so far have been the stories that have been picked up on national radio. But because we have 90 stories, we want more of them to be edited and easily heard by the public. So we and a lot of our community partners committed to doing our own editing of stories, but we had to figure out a way to identify which stories to edit and to be efficient. And so we had the really creative idea to have what we called listening parties.
Yep, and that's all the credit goes to our partners at SCU.
Mm-hmm.
It was their brilliant idea to bring people together to basically sit in a room and listen to stories. And we had a Google form that people responded to, so they identified some of the themes in the stories, which parts of them were really powerful. If they were going to edit the story, what story would they tell with it?
Mm-hmm.
That was incredibly valuable. It was pretty emotional in those rooms. We would actually take breaks regularly and just let people connect with each other and talk about what they were hearing. But yeah, we loved the listening parties.
Yeah, and it felt really community oriented. So yes, it helped us as some of the main project managers with just having more sort of hands metaphorically to help us do the work. But more than that, it invited the larger housing and homelessness advocacy community in. So it wasn't just us that had ownership of that. A lot more people feel like they really have contributed and own this project as well. So it really was fantastic.
Absolutely. And even as we were listening to the stories together with these community partners, we were starting to build the infrastructure on our website, and that is where these stories live. So we actually have 2 levels to the website, and I'm going to start a screen share. So just warning to people who are listening, this is a kind of rich viewing experience. So if you're just doing the audio version, you might want to check out the video version, but we'll do our best to talk you through it in case it's not an option for you. So I am sharing the Firesteel site, and I hope I am, Erin.
Yeah, I see it. You're doing it.
Excellent. Okay, so this is just our main website, firesteelwa.org. There are a couple of places where you can get to the StoryCorps archive. One of them is up here at the top, the StoryCorps menu item, or you can scroll down and under the heading Stories That Inspire, we have a few different stories that you can use as access points, or you can go to listen to more stories. And so this is our public-facing page. We decided that we were going to have different audiences for this archive. And so we decided that there would be a couple of different levels of access. So the public one has polished, edited stories that are 2 to 3 minutes in length. A lot of them have been edited by our partners at Seattle U. I've been editing some stories. We also have a couple that have aired on National Public Radio that were edited by StoryCorps. So you can see that these are all, the polished stories. On this page, we've got a headline and a photo. This is the SoundCloud embedded link, so you can play it directly from this page, and a little excerpt from the story.
Yeah, and we really modeled the design after the existing StoryCorps design. So we wanted there to be design consistency, but also have it complement our brand. So the color palette really is ours, but beyond that, we really modeled it after what StoryCorps already does.
Right, so you can really see that when you go into a story. And again, we've got the the StoryCorps photos that they take right after the participants have recorded their story.
And these are portrait style for those who are listening and not seeing.
Yeah, you've got a photo of the 2 participants together, and then each of them by themselves. And so here on this page, you have social sharing buttons, so you can easily share the story from your Twitter or Facebook account. You have just a little summary of what you can expect to hear in this clip, as well as a little bit of context. We have included the location, so which county it was recorded in, and then beyond that, because we really want this to be useful for advocacy purposes, we've included the state legislative district. So somebody who is interested in reaching out to their legislator, or maybe somebody who's a legislator wants to know how people in their area are being affected, they can search by district as well. You can see if we have any other. So it looks like that's only one from Legislative District 31, but we have a number of districts represented. We have Pierce, Snohomish, and King counties represented just in this polished story. They're also categorized by tags. Mm-hmm. So if you wanted to find stories, I'm actually going to clear out the area, but if you wanted to find stories related to domestic violence, I know that we have more than one of those, since that's such a major cause of family homelessness. So you can see domestic violence playing a role in a few stories here. And in fact, this one, this family is, concerned for their safety still. And so they actually requested to keep their identity confidential. So that's why that picture looks a little bit different. It's a silhouette. Image. Yeah. So that's level 1. And if you are an advocate, or maybe you're, working on a thesis, and this information could be really helpful for you to have the access to the full archive, you can request access. We're still building out this section now, but we're making a lot of progress. So if you click that button, you'll get a description of what's in this archive. And then you would just fill out a simple form asking, for basic information, why are you interested in listening to the interviews? That form will go to me, and I'll respond, and if your request is legitimate, I will create a password for you so that you can access the archive, and I'm just going to show you what that looks like so far. So you'd go to Advocate Login,
and while you're logging in, Denise, I just want to make sure that there's a clarification that this is for advocacy purposes. So that can be, anything from general education. Maybe you need something you want to weave into your newsletter, speaking to the issues you work on, but you can't use this resource for fundraising purposes, which I know is really tempting for us nonprofits, but this is for advocacy purposes only.
Absolutely. Yeah, good point. So once you're in, it actually looks really similar to the main page, except that you get more stories. So the public stories have the headline that kind of describes the story, and the full 40-minute raw stories have just the names of the participants as the headline, and so that's how you know the difference. And so you can then click on one of those, and there'll be just a very brief description, but there's
you got
even
some
more
extras.
information. Yeah, so there will be any information about any stories produced from this interview. So in this case, there was a shorter story produced from this conversation. There is transcript, which is really great. So if I click there, I get the whole transcript for the whole conversation, which is long. Yeah. And we're grateful that StoryCorps contracted somebody to do that for us.
Yeah, I'm so grateful.
So you can play it, and the whole thing embedded, and then you cannot download it. So if you do want to download the story because you want to edit your own short story from it, and we definitely encourage that, you can just email a request to me, along with StoryCorps. I'll just review those requests, and if it seems like you're going to be complying with the terms of use, then we will hook you up with a downloadable file so you can make magic from it.
And this control really is just because of copyright issues. So
Exactly.
as long as it is within the agreed upon terms for use, then go for it. And we'll just want to be able to, StoryCorps especially is very curious to know how people are going to use it. Because this, in many ways, is the first project of its kind. So we're going to be learning a lot from it.
Absolutely. And yeah, we also want to know what you're doing with it so that we can promote it and support it.
Right.
So
see if it's working well. Yeah.
Yeah. So just one thing that I want to mention that is really cool about having the whole transcript online is that in addition to using these tags like domestic violence or couch surfing or the different topics, you can also search through the archive for a specific term. So, for example, if you wanted to find out, if you work at United Way and you wanted to see if anybody is talking about United Way in the archive, there you go. As it turns out, Vince works for United Way. So that comes up. Troy and Alex work for 211, so they must have talked about United Way at some point, and then also came up in this story. So that's a really useful function.
We've got a couple of exciting events coming up to highlight StoryCorps even more. For those of you that will be at the Housing and Homelessness Annual Conference, that is going to be in May, Denise and I will be participating in a communications workshop where we'll be sharing even more about StoryCorps. So if you'll be there, please come, say hi, and participate.
It looks like sometime in May, KOW, which is an NPR affiliate here in Seattle, is going to be broadcasting a number of stories that StoryCorps have edited from this collection. So we'll keep you posted. We'll definitely let you know when that's coming.
Believe us.
And it also looks like there's going to be an event here in Seattle that would feature the stories. We would give people an opportunity to hear more from the participants and ask questions. I don't want to say too much because we are still hammering out the details.
Works. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's also exciting, and we'll keep you posted.
Yeah. Well, and if any of you in our community have other ideas of how we could promote this, how we could share it, maybe you are part of a group or a space or know of an event coming up where we could talk about it, or just even have print materials, whatever that looks like, we'd love to get the word out more. So let us know your ideas too.
And we'd also love to know what you think about this podcast. So please get in touch with us. You can tweet at us. You can find us on Facebook. You can comment on our website or on YouTube. We're all over the place, and we would love to know what you think. Again, our website is firesteelwa.org.
And you can always find this podcast on iTunes as an audio podcast, but we're also in video form on YouTube. You can find that on our Firesteel Wa YouTube channel. And you can subscribe on our blog as well. There's so many different spaces where you can make sure that you're connected and never miss an episode.
That's right. We'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks all. Bye.